Hey, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Scott Luton, Greg White, and Kevin L. Jackson here with you on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's live stream. Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing quite well, Scott Luton. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. It's good to see you on Saturday. But you and
Yeah.
I are really jealous because our dear friend Kevin L. Jackson was down in New Orleans over the weekend.
Yeah.
Kevin,
As usual, he can't give us his
Who
precise
that on my
location.
live stream? Who that on my live stream?
come on, man. The Saints broke the Falcons' hearts last week or so, didn't they, Greg?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. That's Dave from Atlanta.
Yeah, and if not for a few, let's say, helpful penalties, they probably would have beat the Bucks this weekend as well.
That's right.
So, but sometimes when Tom Brady's on the field, there are some helpful penalties that occur on the other team.
Helpful penalties.
Well, still,
I'm not going to say anything. We're looking out the Commanders. I'm still trying to get that in. I mean, it's just not like the Redskins, but.
It's not,
Commanders.
but it's kind of growing on me. I got to tell you, I hated it at first. I thought it was really dumb, but it's kind of growing on me. I think I'm going to be able to live with it over time. It might,
Good.
You as a diehard fan, Kevin, it'll probably take you years to adapt to it.
So
I just can't even imagine if they changed the Chiefs' name, what I would think, right?
Right.
So I've thought of it that way, so I totally get it.
Well, so Greg and Kevin, of course, for folks that may not know, are talking about the new mascot and the team name for the Washington football team. It's the Washington Commanders. So it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue just yet, but we'll see. Once they get back in the Super Bowl, maybe it will roll off everyone's tongues.
If they take command of a game, I think it will be much more natural.
It must be natural.
Well, hey, we're all thankful football is back, but today we're not talking as much about football. We're talking about the supply chain buzz, right? It's the Digital Transformers edition, and today we're going to be we're going to be a little passion here, a little excitement. We're going to be sharing some of the leading stories across global business, and we've got a special guest joining us about 12:25 p.m. Eastern time, and that would be Florian Seebauer with SAP. And also beyond Florian and Kevin and Greg's perspective here today. Hey, folks, get ready because we want to hear from you. So be dropping your perspective throughout the hour in the cheap seats there, the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, so Greg and Kevin, are y'all ready? We're going to say hello to a few folks, and we're going to dive right in. Are you ready?
Let's go.
All right.
Sir, happy Monday. Let's do this.
That's right. Catherine, good. First off, big thanks to Catherine, Chantel, and Amanda, the whole production team helping to make today's show happen. Good morning, she says. Happy Buzz Day to everybody. Thank you for that. Catherine, hope you had a great weekend. Hey, Joey, Vikings, he says, let's go.
And
Joey, I know that I didn't get a chance to connect with your team up in Chicago at IMTS. We'll try to make that happen next time. Greg and Kevin, there was only about, 37 million people at the trade show last week. So, Joey, hopefully you and your team had a good, successful event. Glormar, great to see you this morning via LinkedIn. Paul, good morning from Sierra Leone. Greg and Kevin. Greg, you ever been to Sierra Leone?
That's great.
I haven't, but I know where it is. So let's start there.
Kevin, ever been to Sierra?
Continent.
No, but it's on my list.
It's on your list.
I got a long bucket list.
I'm going to add it to mine then. Arnav, great to see you from India via LinkedIn. So glad to have you here today. Have you?
Yes, a couple of times actually.
And finally, I'm gonna go with Rainey, maybe Renee, maybe it's Renee. But regardless, hello to you from Las Vegas via LinkedIn. Great to see you here.
I'll be in Vegas in 2 weeks. I'm going to Mobile World Congress. It's in Vegas at the Vegas Convention Center. I'm staying at the Resort World. I'm looking forward to it. That's going to be a party.
Nice. NWC. All right, so Greg, one quick question for you before we dive into the first. We're just talking Vegas. Kevin's going to be out there again in a couple of weeks. Where's your favorite place to stay in Vegas, Greg?
This is so embarrassing. Is it Bellagio, the one with the big fountains?
Bellagio, yeah.
Yeah. I love that. The hotel, the casino, and of course they've got a big theater there. It's right in the middle of the strip, so you're kind of in the middle of everything. But Scott, do you pay for that privilege? I mean, one of the Wynn is another one that amazingly has really reasonable rates and is super posh.
Okay.
So, but I haven't stayed there before, so I dare not rate that, right? But I've always wanted to try the Wynn.
Well, we need to make a trip back. It's been a little while since we joined our friend Tony out there a couple years back.
I don't know if I can endure a contact high for that many days. So,
well, Kevin, we expect
I think so many. It's funny how universal, and I wonder what our audience thinks here, but how universal it is. Everyone is like, 3 days. 3 days is all I can do in Vegas, right?
Well, you drive around and the whip comes into
just walking down the street, Kevin.
You know?
Yeah.
Just walking.
So, Kevin, we expect to get a full report here in a week or two as you're at NWC.
We'd like to know what percentage THC you feel like you've walked through on the street.
All right.
As well as anything that happens.
Supply chain survey on THC composition.
That's right. Hey, and to all of our friends out in Vegas, of course, we're all just having a little bit of fun. We all enjoy Vegas and all that it has to offer. Plays a big role in global business, right? So many trade shows and conversations that it fuels there.
You can insult Vegas. They're not going to shut you out. I mean,
but I should say hello. I doubt he's tuned in, but a college buddy of mine, Gordon. Gordon moved out to Vegas not too long ago and got a variety of certifications. He's in the tourism industry, and he loves it. So, Gordon, if you're listening, hope you're well and living large in Vegas. Okay, so folks, wait a second. Gail is with us today, one of our faves here.
Hey.
Gail, that's right. Gail was in Vegas last week, and she says,
for 4 days.
Right. I survived 4 days. Great to be with you guys, Gail says. Well, Gail, appreciate what you shared. And I loved Kevin and Greg. Gail kind of commented on a lot of different conversations and people she was with and really celebrated, being back in person. And that was a great post on LinkedIn. Amanda and Catherine, I don't know if y'all can find that, but that'd be wonderful to share. So, Gail, great to have you. And looking forward to your perspective. Okay, so we got to dive in. We got 3 things we want to talk through before our dear friend Florian joins us about 12:25 p.m. Eastern time. I want to start with this. One quick update, Greg and Kevin. So Greg, last week on The Buzz and a few other shows, we were talking about the rail strike. And then we got some good news that after about 20 hours of last-minute negotiation, is there really any other kind? They came to a
well said.
They came to a tentative deal, and then really the global, or really the U.S. supply chain community certainly celebrated. Certainly North America supply chain community. However, here's the kicker: this Thursday, right? That would be the 22nd. Is that right? All 12 labor unions and its members have to vote on that tentative deal. And all of them have to agree. Otherwise, if they don't, if just one union doesn't agree, then we're back in where a strike is imminent.
I'm glad they're voting on Thursday. That gives them that 20 hours before Friday, so they can have another session.
Right. Renegotiate before the weekend.
Yeah, right.
So we'll see how that plays out. So folks, look for, I doubt we're going to get an early vote. So look for the news coming out Thursday if all 12 unions give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Okay. So Greg and Kevin, we got so much good stuff to get through here today. Kevin, we've got a couple different articles. I want to start with you here. I want to start by diving into what is really our second story in this piece from Pumps and Systems. It speaks to how supply chain digital transformation is exposing a wide variety of vulnerabilities. So, Kevin, tell us more.
Yeah, absolutely. So manufacturing always has sort of two sides of the house. It has operational technology and it has information technology. And information technology has kind of been on, the back seat for a long time. But digital transformation is really bringing these two, OT and IT, to parity. And this is really important when you're looking at industrial systems like pumps and turbines, regulating valves, and tanks, because these things are now vulnerable to cyber attacks, in both at the plant itself, but more importantly for this audience, in their supply chains. All right. The end users are connecting these operational devices. They're exposed to these threats because of the industrial Internet of Things, IIoT. These technologies are integrated into existing software and the industrial control systems and SCADAs, the supervisory systems. So supply chain attacks where the company's data is compromised via the hacking of a third-party supplier that has legitimate access to the customer's systems. In this way, the hackers can really insert malicious code into trusted hardware or software at the source, which compromises the data of its users and the users in the onward chain. So it's like the Solar Winds hack of a couple of years ago, which was an attack on the software supply chain. So think about it.
Be on the lookout, Bolo. Hey, Greg, I want to get you to weigh in, but really quick. One of my favorite stories, not because of what happened, but I think a lot of folks can relate to it. If you remember, Jack Allen and Cisco, right? Jack shared the story, which they built into a campaign where this one manufacturer, not at Cisco, but one of them, this manufacturers, they had a bunch of team members that were in a bowling league, and hackers, as they kind of surveilled that activity via social media, they found out, they put two and two together, and then they hacked the bowling alley's website, which gave certain information to the employees' profiles and whatnot, and ultimately were able to shut down a production line of that manufacturing facility, kind of along the lines of what Kevin's sharing. But Greg,
wow.
Your take though, Greg, on these vulnerabilities that Kevin's speaking to.
Yeah, so I'm gonna, I'd like to get Kevin your thoughts on my take here, because I'm going to project a little bit, and I imagine someone. I mean, I'm not even a cybersecurity expert, but I have done a lot of business process and digital transformations, and was kind of brought up consultant and operator, and worked on the tech side as well. So, the thing that's interesting to me about this, dare I say frustrating, is this is a long established problem. And the companies in this article have to have had their heads in the sand, and many more companies do, because that these are not new issues. Think about even Target and their breach of their person who swept their parking lots or whatever it was. It's way past time to acknowledge the danger here and provision for it. And in reading this article, there were a couple things that leapt out at me. And one is, it's time to eliminate the silos between the business side of the business and the IT side. Because what they said was, without saying it, I believe, is that sometimes the operations people implement systems without the full vetting and analysis and approval of the IT organization, which creates a lot of these vulnerabilities. And then the other was this principle of point of least privilege. Only give people access to the process and the data that is absolutely required for their role in the process. And clearly, one of the discussions in the article was that's not happening. And, that's just foundational. You learn that when you learn how to analyze and build business processes. So, and then the final thing that they talked sort of around, but about a bit, is there ought to be intrusion alerts. I mean, my home network can tell me when somebody tries to access my network, right? There ought to be performance change alerts and, things like that could, if not preempt, at least notify of these intrusions. And if not the intrusion, then the change in the performance of the equipment, and to avoid real damage. Because in the article, and I think folks ought to read this article, obviously, but in the article they did a demonstration of how someone could access the system remotely and completely destroy the equipment.
Cyber physical attack.
Right.
So Kevin, really quick, your quick take on Greg's take.
It's all about cyber hygiene. It's more important than ever right now. If you focus on the basics, right? Making sure you have complex passwords and you rotate those passwords, and that your IT team gets a say in all of the IT that you do. All right. Because they are your experts. Leverage them.
Excellent. Well, Greg, and cyber hygiene. Cyber hygiene.
And I think that distinction between the business or the operations people and the IT, we need to stop thinking like that. Everyone in a business is a business person.
Yeah.
Right. Some of them, their choice of tool set is operations or business process. Some of them, their choice of tool set or designated tool set is technology, but they're all business people.
Excellent point. And by the way, I have a hard enough with my kids with normal hygiene, and now we got to worry about cyber hygiene with all three kids. Man, ramping up the complexity. All right, so Kevin and Greg, really quick, I want to say hello. Josh Goody, great to have you back as always from Seattle, sunny Seattle.
Sunny Seattle, that's good to hear. Yeah.
And Jonathan Kimbrough, great to have you here today via LinkedIn. Here in Atlanta, one of the best cities.
Sunny Atlanta, we can verify that, Scott.
That's right. That's right. It is gorgeous.
at least right this moment. Yeah.
I want to move along to this next article. Again, folks, we've got a special guest coming in about 12:25. Florian Seebauer with SAP. So stay tuned. But this article here, Kevin.
Yeah.
It's almost a flip side of what we were talking about a second ago, right? Because a second ago we were kind of talking about some of the threats and risks associated with technology. But here, from our friends at Thomson Reuters, we're talking about new global supply chains, which are better than new Coke, I promise, and how technology can help us break all sorts of barriers while fueling global trade and a whole lot more. So, Kevin, unpack this point of view a little bit for us.
So, globalization and digital transformation are really affecting us all. And, one of our favorite topics over the past 2 years, in supply chain especially, it's been toilet paper, right? And because of globalization, we're getting our toilet paper from everywhere around the world. And the need to track that toilet paper to make sure that Amazon can take the drone and drop it there when you need it, right outside the door. Okay.
Right.
So if we look back, though, global trade volume has actually tripled over the last 20 years. It's up 272% between 2000 and 2020, valued at over 18 trillion US dollars in 2020. So these trade routes barely existed back in 2020, are now some of the biggest trade routes in the market today. And with this globalization and the links between all the countries, now you have to deal with the law and regulations and compliance in all of these countries. So this is yet another element, a very complex element you have to watch in your supply chain. So incorporating technology in your global trade activities could reduce some of the risks that you may see in your supply chain. And face it, today, what business isn't a global business? If you're on the internet, you are global.
Good point.
So how can technology help you? Okay, you may need to leverage technology to trace and track your products, not just your physical products, but your virtual products as well. You may want to measure the viability of a particular global trade route or global trade partner, leveraging research and comparisons. The internet can help you. Technology can help you with that. You can monitor your business partners and their performance, not just with you, but with others, leveraging technology and automation. And you are operating. So Greg and I talked about this before. We're no longer in a supply chain. We're in a supply web, right? You're in an ecosystem. So you need to really streamline operations between all the other companies that exist in your ecosystem. Technology can really help there. So digital transformation, baby.
All right. So Greg, your couple quick response here, your quick take.
Yeah, I think probably the key here to me, I mean, this previous article really points this out, is that securing that network virtually is equally as important as the physical security that one would naturally employ in a global supply ecosystem, right? And I think you can't think of it separately, right? You wouldn't think of not having armed guards in certain countries or not having trailers behind fences in certain cities, even in probably most cities, frankly, in the U.S. You wouldn't think of not having locks on trailers, right? And containers and things like that. You have to think of your digital systems, your digital and cybersecurity systems, as those locks and fences, right? And security. So I think it's critical for us to, I think T Squared talked about this. It's critical for us to recognize that siloization, I think is what he called it, has really put siloization. There you go. Siloization has really put the supply chain business in general in jeopardy. And to Kevin, to your point, everyone is virtually global. I mean, there are cities where your internet signal is blocked. You're not projecting to everywhere in the world, but you are still exposed to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Even if you're blocked from posting in China, let me assure you, there are people in China who are interested in what you're doing.
That's right. Hey, we're about to bring in our special guest. I want to just share a couple quick comments. This graphic, by the way, Greg and Kevin,
is that Post-it notes?
Well, we must have gotten it from 3M because clearly they are communicating that Post-it notes make the whole world go round, right? But y'all check out that read. Nazreen, great to have you back with us. Greetings from Iran via LinkedIn. It's so nice to see you. Josh says, hey, there was also a hack at Rockstar, the video game developer. Josh says, just goes to show that everyone needs to update and innovate when it comes to protection. Excellent point
right
there. Josh,
that is inherently built into their products.
That's right.
Security is, right? So even with an intention, it can still be vulnerable.
Yes. Greg, you referenced T Squared point earlier. And by the way, T Squared holds down the fort for us at YouTube. T Squared says that cybersecurity story more than sobers and truly underscores the dangers of siloization. So yes, Greg, we're coining a new word there. And then finally from Joey, siloization.
Yeah, that's cool, right?
I like that.
We're going to steal that, Tyrone. Sorry, man. Just warning you.
I didn't see a registered trademark behind it.
Yeah.
So let's go.
So Joey K says, I think the challenges often come from the gap in communication between the business, IT, and leadership. Not only that, challenges exist with teams lacking trust in their colleagues who are the experts within their craft. Love the hygiene comparison. So
Yeah.
true.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you there, Joey. Okay. Well, we're going to leave that story there. Y'all can check it out. We've dropped a link to it in the comments. Thank you, Greg and Kevin, for walking us through your thoughts on both of those first two stories here today. But we got a lot more to get to, right? So y'all stick tuned. We're about to dive in deeper.
There's more.
But wait, there's more. We're going to be diving into the automotive industry quite a bit here today. But before we get there, I want to welcome in our special guest, Florian Seebauer, Senior Director, SAP Business Network and Direct Spend Solutions. Hey, Florian, how are we doing today?
Hey, guys. Doing good. How are you?
Doing wonderful. It's so nice to see you.
Yeah, it's really, really good to see you.
Oh, gosh. And
yeah.
I love that, Florian, I love that color blue. That is a gorgeous color blue. But hey, as gorgeous as that color that blue is on you here today is the sight of a really tasty cheeseburger. So, folks, stick with me here. Before we dive into...
You had me a cheeseburger.
Before
it's lunchtime here.
It is. Dinner time where Florian is, though. But hey, before we dive before we dive into the work at hand, I want to start with just a fun question to our panel here, because yesterday was National Cheeseburger Day. I don't know how I missed that yesterday, but
yeah, right.
Florian, I bet the world celebrates. It's one of those global cuisines, certainly known well here in the States. But Florian, what is one of your go-to places to get a really good cheeseburger?
I spent over 10 years in California, and I started loving In-N-Out, but I don't think you find it anywhere over Europe, right? So I moved towards Five Guys, which started, I guess, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So that's now my new place. And I missed the celebration day, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would have gone for that.
So did I. I feel like it ought to be marketed better, Florian.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. All right. So Florian dropped. Quite a double deuce there between In-N-Out and Five Guys, right? Greg and Kevin. Greg, what's one of your favorite go-tos?
Man, I love hamburgers so much. It really depends on the mood that I'm in. But one of my favorite lately, because we're on the island, is the Earl of Sandwich makes a burger that is about that thick. And it's a dive bar. It's the oldest continuous running bar on Hilton Head. And their burger is gigantic, but man, it is a fantastic hamburger. And there are even a lot of great burgers on the island, everywhere, of course. And I'm, of course, with Florian, if you're going to buy a chain hamburger, it ought to be an In-N-Out.
Well, Greg, does it come with the theme song, Duke of Earl? Duke of Earl. Playing in the background whenever you're dining in. Hey, y'all don't make me sing that again, please. Kevin.
Please don't.
Kevin, you're a cleanup here today. Where do you go for a great cheeseburger?
Well, Florian stole it from me. It's Five Guys.
Well, of course, where you're from, that's where they started.
It's Five Guys, and it's not just the burgers; it's the fries too. I mean, jeez, it's the fries that make it all. All right, so I gotta go with that, and it's just so messy.
But even a small fry at Five Guys is enough for two people, at least two people.
Yeah.
Right?
It's so worth it, though. It's so worth it. All right.
Totally.
Greg, Kevin, and Florian, thank you for making everybody hungry. By the way, Gail says In-N-Out rules. Thanks, Florian Seebauer. Glormar says, my daughter says, Glormar says, that I make better burgers than In-N-Out, and I will take that as a huge success. Agreed.
We'll have to go check that
we'll
out.
We'll take 3 to go.
Right. Hey, 4
to go. Yeah, right.
Amanda says, me and my favorite birthday boy Bennett love a good old Whopper. That's good. A little different, but good. Amanda.
Double Whopper. I tried that Impossible Whopper too. That's actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Not on the top, but it's not bad.
And finally, Josh giving us a little Yakima market intel. Miners Burgers in Yakima, Washington. Thank you for that, Josh. And by the way,
burger you make for Miners had better be good, right? So it's got to be pretty tasty.
And Sammy, greetings to you as well. Sammy's tuned in from Nairobi, Kenya, via LinkedIn. Okay, y'all keep telling us, keep sharing where you get your favorite burgers from. Keep commenting on the supply chain focus conversation we're having. We got the next half hour or so with Florian, and looking forward to diving into. So we better get to business. We better get to work, folks. Florian, where we want to start is we're going to be talking, as I mentioned, quite a bit about the automotive industry here today, and we'll start with this interesting read from our friends at Automotive Logistics. What's old is new again, as many automakers are leveraging vertical integration more and more for several reasons, to include risk management. So, Florian, please tell us more.
Yeah, the article starts right with the new normal of supply chain disruptions caused by the pandemic, war, sanctions, weather pattern, right, shortages in material and components. And supply chain experts, right, at the auto manufacturers go back again to the vertical integration to ensure that the supply is coming timely, right, to the factories. And the article talks about 3 examples of backward vertical integration, right? One of them is the example of, securing raw materials, specifically here the cobalt and the nickel, right, for the so important battery supplies, right? Because everyone is moving towards electric vehicles, right? And therefore, of course, those raw materials are extremely critical. Another example, which the article talks about, are the important semiconductors, right? We saw all over, huge delays. And interestingly, I just got my new company car, right? Last Friday, I picked it up. Now, guess how long I was waiting for that car?
9 months.
Yeah.
16 months.
Now,
whoa! Wow, 16.
That is something. Right now, in Germany, people are a little bit special because you customize your car, right? It's not something you buy just from the shelf. And I would say 3 months, 6 months were normal before, but 16 is unheard of, right? And of course, shortages in semiconductors, right? That is a big issue there. So it's real, and that is exactly why more and more OEMs directly engage now down in the supply chain with their semiconductor manufacturers, right, and really planning already ahead for the next release of semiconductors to have that new advanced capabilities. And last but not least, right, the article talks about the automakers which getting engaged in the actually manufacturing of the batteries, right? There are examples of Volvo Trucks, of Stellantis, of Volkswagen, right, to really get now really deeply involved in producing those batteries, which are so essential for the new way of driving, right? And interestingly here, right, a lot of opportunities. On the other hand, of course, also a lot of challenges, right? Considering now that additional complexity for the OEMs to deal with that large number of suppliers, running all those sourcing activities, managing the overall project management, right, to ensuring that all of that is nicely orchestrated, right? Also, a need for increased supply chain visibility here, really to orchestrate all of those activities, right?
Orchestration, right. One of our favorite things to talk about here, Florian. Greg, I want to get you to comment first on both the article, and here's the article. We'll share that again that Florian was kind of speaking to from our friends at Automotive Logistics. Your thought when it comes to the automotive industry revisiting vertical integration?
Yeah, I mean, this is not an uncommon sort of swing of the pendulum, especially when you've lost control of your supply chain in the way that so many manufacturers, not just auto manufacturers, but particularly auto manufacturers have. And when you have such a far-flung supply chain, the risk of far-flung and third, fourth, and fifth parties, in your supply chain is very risky, as we've all evidenced. 16 months, I can't even believe it. And I'm sure it was a German car also, Florian, right?
That is right. Let's not name them now, but
yeah,
German manufacturer, that's right.
Well, I mean, and it's not all anyone's fault, because, one of the biggest risks, we bought a German car that will remain unnamed, but I always buy the same German car. So if anybody who knows me knows. And it's not just raw material. It's global conflict, because the wire harnesses for this particular brand's cars are made in Ukraine. And there was nobody there to make them for a lot of the time. So, but I think one of the things we have to think about too is that, and I am more and more convinced, look, this is not a fully scientific survey. I would say this is I can't remember if it's theory or hypothesis, but it's somewhere along the scientific method curve, that there aren't enough natural materials, be they rare earth minerals or component minerals like Florian is talking about, to construct all of the batteries that we need to convert the entire world to EV without stripping the entire crust of the planet off, which of course is never going to happen. But what this does for a lot of these manufacturers is it enables them to take better control and have better visibility to that, so that when the inevitable happens, which is creating synthetics for cobalt and nickel and some of these rare earth minerals or elements are required, they'll have a good eye on when it's time to do that and start to build the scientific capability to do it, because it is in just my opinion, absolute necessity to do that.
Okay. Kevin, I'm gonna get your take here in just a second. I want to share a couple quick messages first. Catherine shares Village Burger in Dunwoody is a great place to eat.
There. Yep.
She also says Casey's Place in Vero Beach, Florida was her go-to back in 2015. Russ, great to have you back with us from London via LinkedIn. Looking forward to your perspective. And then finally, before we get Kevin's take, Josh Goody says Mining Digital posted saying that there were more than 50 deposits of cobalt in the U.S. There were issues in Idaho and Montana due to them having to open mines near where Californians bought their new houses. Well, folks, we're going to be talking about EV batteries here in just a second. But Kevin, before we get there, speak if you would to this first article from Automotive Logistics and vertical integration and such.
So it's the first time. This is not a story about the automotive industry. It's a story about the IT industry. What is a car? It's a computer with wheels. All right. So the 18 months or 16 months shortage was because of the integrated circuitry in the vehicle. Second, you were talking about wiring harnesses. Okay. Quick Google search shows that according to the Ukrainian government, there were 22 automotive companies that invested more than $600 million to build 38 plants in Ukraine.
Wow.
To employ 60,000 Ukrainians to produce automotive wire harnesses. Okay.
Wow.
So that is a huge impact on the automotive industry. And another point, sort of put an exclamation point on this.
Right.
The car manufacturing industry in Russia collapsed 97% after the start of the war. Okay, so that tells you a lot about the global dependence on supply chain, the fragility of a single point of failure, and why integration is really important. This supply web that we talk about is really important, not just in automotive, but in every industry.
Integration, but also having a conductor that can really provide effective orchestration, circling back to what Florian shared on the front end.
Orchestration and visibility.
Yes, that's right.
Visibility, right? I think that is really key, and really into your supply chain, right? To really get the necessary insights, right? And then react accordingly.
That's
also
right.
the article was talking about that, that more and more automotive industries move away from single source to multi-source, right? Which of course it adds additional costs, additional complexities. But on the other hand, right, you take out the risk and you can shift then your demand, right, between suppliers. Also unheard of, right, when you think back maybe 5 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a hedging strategy.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So much to dive into here, but I want to move to the second article, Florian. We were just talking a second ago along these lines. So, of course, the demand for electric vehicles has shot up, right? You've got some car companies pledging to move to an all EV fleet of offerings. But along these moves, the prices associated with the battery metals that power these vehicles have also skyrocketed. So, Florian, tell us more about this development from our friends at Bloomberg.
Yeah, no, it's quite related, right? We're going to talk again about those raw materials, right, which are so essential for the battery, right? Lithium, cobalt, and nickel. And there was a trend, right, over the last 10, 15 years, right, that the prices for battery packs really declined. But now that's turning because raw material prices skyrocketing, right? In case, for example, of cobalt, right, that increased dramatically. Lithium more so, right? Up to 600 times, right? It went up from prices before, and of course that creates now huge challenges for the OEMs because what can they do? Should they take a cut in their margin or push that further to their consumers, right? And of course there is the battle between the combustion engine cars, and I guess now, due to that increase of raw material prices, right, it's not anymore as clear that the EV cars will overtake the combustion engine cars due to those spikes. On the other hand, of course, also combustion engine drivers, right, have to deal with exactly those expensive raw materials, right? The gasoline, the oil is also getting more expensive.
No shortage of complexities here. Greg, I want to get you to weigh in on what Florian said there, or back to batteries. I feel like that's a common theme we've been dealing with here lately. Greg, your thoughts?
Well, this article to me is more about the cost, which will unquestionably go up. It already has in the United States, as the U.S. government has mandated, right, that all cars must, and now some state governments, California by 2030, in 7 years and 3 months, all cars sold in California must be electric. So, so costs will unquestionably go up. And to answer your question, Florian, they will be passed on to the consumer because the consumer will have no choice. So that's already starting to happen because of the subsidies that the U.S. government has provided to consumers. Remarkably, virtually every car manufacturer in America has increased their price by precisely the amount of subsidy that the U.S. government has provided to the consumer. So we are trapped from a supply and demand standpoint. Combustion cars, many of them will cease to be on the road in 7 years and 3 months because they'll wear out. And then you won't be able to get one, so you'll have no choice. We'll have a captive audience. Of course, the cost will, let's just face it, businesses, corporations don't pay taxes. The consumer pays their taxes in terms of uplifted price. So, and of course, every opportunity they can where demand is forced, they will take advantage of it. So the cost of these things going up is inevitable, again, because we need more than the earth can provide. And the research to provide synthetics or other solutions will cost a tremendous amount of money, as all early stage research and development does, and it will be passed along to the consumer.
Okay. Well, it sounds like with all of those things manifesting themselves, more and more of us may be getting around via something we call Chevrolets, Greg. All right. So
yeah, right. I mean, think about this. Think about the growth in e-bikes, right? We may not even be able to afford an e-bike, much less an EV.
Well, hey, love your commentary there, you and Florian. Kevin, bring it home for us. What's your thoughts here on what's going on?
So in the end, it's about reducing our energy, right? So we want to get out of oil, so we go to electric vehicles. And now we're worried about rare earths in the batteries for these electric vehicles. So what's the next step? How about maglev, magnetic levitation? I mean, you've all heard of magnetic levitation for trains, right? But what about cars? So China is actually testing putting magnetic levitation rails on the highway so that when you're driving the car, you can actually get on this maglev and it raises the car just a few centimeters off the ground, and it can reduce the energy that the car uses by as much as 31%. And it doesn't matter if it's a fossil fuel car or electric car, you're now reducing the energy that you need to get from point A to point B with much cheaper energy on this maglev. But there is a catch.
Right.
It uses rare earth elements
right.
for the permanent magnets that are part of this maglev system. So once again, it's going to be a supply chain issue.
It all comes back to supply chains and supply chain management, Kevin. But we've known that for years and years. The party and the tent's bigger these days, which is good in many ways. But Kevin, thanks for sharing. We're going to keep our eye on that maglev, magnetic levitation innovation that's taking place overseas. All right, folks, with all these complexities and these issues, we need resources to overcome them. I'm about to ask Florian about what his team does, and offer up some resources. But before I do, we got some great comments here. I want to share a couple of these. Let's see here. Russ says big car industry must develop a strong strategy, short, middle, long term, including considering buying some key suppliers and practicing localization more than ever before, perhaps. Good point there, Russ. Josh says, I think he's going back to the mining digital and some of the locations he was mentioning earlier. These open mines, they've already had some water pollution issues in some of those places. Good point there, Josh. Hey, Nanda is back with us, Greg. It's been a little while. Yeah. Nanda, great to see you here today. Glorimar says EV, gas, hybrid, none of those are the sole solutions. At least in the U.S., we need all the options. In California, where she lives, she says we have way too many EVs. She owns one too. And I try to charge it at home as much as I can because finding an empty charging station has become very challenging since the gas prices went up. Hey, look here. This is Mom. This is my one and only. Hey, great to see you, Mom. Leah Luton says, kind of like the Jetsons. I always wanted to levitate. So she looks like we got a couple votes.
So I think it would be interesting. I like the maglev idea. I wonder if there's a way to do gravlev where it's just gravity. You know, it doesn't require all these gigantic magnets, where we can use the gravity of the Earth, right,
wow.
and the inherent magnetic force of the Earth. I mean, does that not sound like a fun project?
I love it.
Right? Then we're Jetsons. Then we are Jetsons, right?
All right. So, and by the way, great. I love the Jetsons analogy there. All right. So, Greg, Kevin, Florian, you and your team do some great work working with companies around the globe. And for the handful of folks that may not know, tell us especially what the SAP Business Network, what that and your team do at SAP.
No, absolutely happy to do so. Now, look, we talked a lot about the issues organization facing, right, regarding supply chain disruption, finding the right suppliers, the right sources of supply, and that is exactly what the business network can help organizations to achieve, right? it allows you to connect to the world's largest business network, right? Finding the right suppliers and then collaborating with those suppliers. And really doesn't really matter what type of supplier it is, if it's a raw material supplier, component supplier, logistic provider, right? Asset provider, service provider. So you can easily collaborate with them and expand your digitalization out of your four walls, right, into the supply chain, right, and gain real-time transparency, resilience, agility, and also it has a big benefit from a sustainability perspective because you can really make sure that the suppliers on the network have signed the necessary certifications, that they provide you with the information regarding the carbon footprint, right, and really helps your organization to overcome those challenges. And it's really across the different industries.
Right. All those things that once upon a time were nice to haves, but more and more they are becoming must haves. The customer expects it, undoubtedly. Okay. So let's talk about some of the resources that you brought with you today, Florian. In particular, I think we've got this white paper here teed up. This SAP white paper is focused on transforming product sourcing, which you were just kind of mentioning, for highly engineered products and all the complexity that come with them. So why should folks check out this white paper, you think?
I highly recommend it if the readers are related to the discrete industry, right? What we have done is building a solution with leading automotive OEMs, tier one suppliers, right? And the solution described in the paper is all about what we have done there, right? Which helps those organizations to bring products quicker to market, collaborate early on with the suppliers, right? To really ensure that the designs, are cost efficient, but also that sustainability aspects are considered. And doing that in a really collaborative way with the suppliers. Also, it addresses challenges related to the raw material prices, right? So you can also capture index-based pricing, negotiate that, and really ensure that the prices and the purchase orders you send out to your suppliers are based on current indexes you have negotiated. So it really makes sure that you can really start from a product idea to operational execution seamlessly, all in our systems, right? And that with a large customer supplier base, all digital.
Good.
That's critical. We're talking about what is siloization, right?
So, yeah.
With a system like that, is that IT or OT? It's both.
No,
right.
You're spot on. You're spot on because it brings really all that together, right?
Yeah.
Collaboration around assets, logistics, supply chain, procurement.
Agreed. And it helps practitioners operationalize as they go after the art of the possible and really the art of the necessary in 2022 in many ways. All right, really quick, I want to share some other things. And Greg, I'd love to get your take on what Florian has shared as well. Kevin loves that siloization word, as do I.
Me too. Yeah.
Hey, let's see here. So we got that white paper. Y'all check that out. Our production team has shared those links in the comments. Also, we've got a blog article that focuses on how effective product sourcing can help rein in the complexity of sourcing highly engineered products. And you can also check out the link that we dropped where you can learn more about SAP's sourcing solutions. So check out and connect with Florian and his team there. All right, so Greg, Kevin, what was that?
What isn't highly engineered solution today? You have to highly engineer just about everything.
It's a good point. A good point, especially in the automotive industry. One of the most everything seems to be highly engineered. Of course, you've got safety considerations, unlike many other aspects of global manufacturing. Greg, weigh in really quick on what Florian was sharing, and including the priorities and the resources that whether you're in procurement, supply chain, manufacturing, you name it, you really need at your fingertips.
Yeah, well, I think to both Florian and Kevin's points, either or both of your product are highly engineered, or the supply chain. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're just getting an injection molded lid for something. I mean, it's because you want to do that cheaply, your supply chain becomes highly engineered so that the integrated complexities of either the construct of the product or the mobilization of the product is very highly engineered. So having the kind of data and transparency and visibility that we've been talking about today, and then of course, Kevin, all of our favorite new word, eliminating the siloization between portions of your business, that all becomes critical to the success of a company. I mean, we have to think in different ways. We have to engage, integrate, technically integrate in different ways, and we have to move and view the goods. What's the biggest question everyone's asking right now? Where's my stuff? Right? Yeah. And that includes some big corporations who have far-flung or very complex dynamics in their supply chain, whether that is the design or the production or the movement of the goods. So all of these technologies allow you to have that visibility, that transparency. And I think one of the most overlooked aspects of the supply chain historically is the responsiveness and recovery capability. Resilience is what we call it today, right? Mm-hmm. When something goes wrong, and notice I didn't say if, I said when something goes wrong, right? The number one rule of supply chain, expect everyone to fail you. So when you do that and you provision for that, these kind of tools and solutions help you before a catastrophic event takes your supply chain down.
Mm. Is it resilience or is it flexibility? You need that flexibility, right?
Mm. Or both, and then some, right?
I think we could have a really long discussion over which is an element of the other, but flexibility is definitely required to have resiliency, right?
That's right.
There's all kinds of words. We should just list the words.
Well, we need that flip chart you used to have behind you way back in the day, Greg.
Yeah.
We could help power this discussion. But hey, for the sake of time, I want to make sure before Florian departs, I want to make sure folks know how to connect with he and his team there. So Florian, what's the easiest way to connect with you?
Just use LinkedIn. And I guess we have my LinkedIn contacts.
We do.
Here.
We do?
Cool.
We sure do. It's just that easy, I tell you. Greg and Kevin, we should have gotten in the LinkedIn business long ago. Everyone, it's the go-to. It's just like that. It's no longer the look me up in the phone book. It's find me on LinkedIn. But
you almost don't need business cards anymore.
Right.
You don't. They give you a QR code on LinkedIn.
Right. So it's not just where you are now; it's where you've been in the past and the provenance, Kevin L. Jackson, of your education.
Provenance. Love that word. All right. Well, hey, for now, though, Florian Seebauer, thanks so much for joining us here today. Really enjoyed your perspective on all things supply chain, really global business. And I hope you get a chance to eat a great cheeseburger soon because you're a few hours ahead of us. But Florian Seebauer, Senior Director, SAP Business Network and Direct Spend Solutions, thank you for your time, Florian.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Florian.
Good day, guys.
Thanks, Florian.
Oh, that swoosh was on the money. Waits for no.
Yeah, I barely got that thanks in there,
Greg. Wait,
but we mustn't delay because our production team is incredibly precise.
So right.
We're going to swoosh if you're ready or not.
That's right.
Well, hey, really enjoyed Florian's take here today. I think we could have spent a couple more hours talking whether it's cheeseburgers or the complexities in the automotive industry or a lot more. Greg, you and Kevin just talking about defining some of these words and what they really mean, because they can mean different things to different leaders and practitioners and teams and organizations. But really enjoyed the discussion here today. All right, so I want to wrap. We might finish just a minute or two over. Kevin, we need to make sure folks, all maybe 3 people that don't know, you're doing great work.
2 people.
Two people.
Okay, 2 people. My audience is decreasing as we speak.
Well, the audience that doesn't know how to get a hold of you is definitely decreasing.
Well, there's a great tie-in here, though, because Kevin, you're doing great work as you lead Digital Transformers with Kevin L. Jackson, a great podcast. Y'all check that out wherever you get your podcast from and subscribe, because one of the topics that you're going to be talking about, and Greg, we've chatted about here in one of our recent live streams, is the long-standing partnership between SAP and IBM. And Kevin, I'm not sure.
Absolutely.
When is that episode? When will that be dropping?
We'll be dropping on Monday.
Wow, that's very timely.
Yeah,
isn't it though?
Like today, Monday, or next Monday?
Next Monday.
Oh, awesome.
The next episode of Digital Transformers on Supply Chain Now. We'll be talking with Stacy Short from IBM, and she manages the relationship, long-standing relationship between IBM and SAP. 50 years long. Talk about working together for the betterment of the world. Man. And get this, SAP was founded by 5 IBMers. So they left IBM, founded SAP, and they've started that relationship. So how long has OT and IT been working together? SAP and IBM. So
quite some
stay
time.
tuned.
So, hey, y'all can find that episode and all episodes, including all past episodes. Kevin's been building quite a library. Look up Digital Transformers wherever you get your podcast from and subscribe so you don't miss that episode or any others. One last thing to touch on, Greg. Really enjoyed your commentaries. Always enjoy them, but here lately, one of your mantras that you have long held, and you've gotten a lot of responses around, is whether consumers like it or not, the beginning and the end of the supply chains, right?
Yeah.
And one of your commentaries touched on that once more last week. But where I'm getting is, I think we published our 4th or 5th edition of With That Said over the weekend, right? That's our dedicated LinkedIn newsletter. And Greg and Kevin, we are right at 15,000 subscribers, just 4 editions in.
It's even been a month that thing has been out. It's just over a month, right?
Right. So if you're not, I think we got a link we're going to drop to the most recent one. If you're not subscribing to that, check it out. And if there's ideas that any of our listeners, subscribers, any of our global family of listeners have when it comes to that newsletter, hey, let us know. We'd love to, we love feedback. It is certainly a blessing and helps come up with great new ideas. Kevin,
who's that at the header of that article?
So
you guys are so much more adept. I don't know how you're doing this while we're on the air.
I'm everywhere.
It's impressive.
Well, check. So to see what Kevin's talking about, you're gonna have to check out the most recent edition of With That Said, and of course, you can also find that the Supply Chain Now company page on LinkedIn. Okay, Greg, I'm going to give you the final thought here today. Kevin, always a pleasure. We love our Digital Transformers episodes. We're getting out front. We're making it's been official. We're going to make it even more official, so you can catch Kevin L. Jackson every 3rd Monday on The Buzz, every 3rd Monday here at Supply Chain Now. So look for that in October, November, and December. Kevin, really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I enjoy this. It's just fun.
Yep, it is. It is a blast. We could easily add an extra hour and not miss a beat. But Greg, we covered a lot of ground here with Florian and Kevin and all the comments here in Cheap Seats. What's your final thought? Challenge our audience, and then I'll sign off.
Yeah, I think the thing that we have to recognize at every level, and this continues to surprise me, like the article that we talked about, that supply chain, really any aspect of business and IT, which I include digital security, cybersecurity and digital transformation in. All of those things are inextricably connected. And if you don't have a plan for that, it's like planning to fail, because you simply cannot keep up with manual processes and even some of the old processes, and certainly not digitally integrated and protected processes inside your organization, but with the other organizations that you do business with globally. And if the last 33 months have not taught you that, where the heck have you been? So I think that's the challenge. Is I would cease to think about it as digital transformation being separate from supply chain or separate from your business. Digital transformation is your business. We've been talking about that with Kevin L. Jackson for several years now. And like he's turned us into digital transformation, not experts, but fans, we're turning him into a supply chain fan. And I think the more that we see that, the more that the three of us and all of our team get together, the more clear that is. And I'm hopeful that companies will start to see that, get more serious about it, spend the money, do it now, pay us now or pay us later, but spend the money to improve the integration and safety of your supply chain, both physically and virtually.
Yes.
All right. We got to leave it there. Don't plan to fail. Be like Greg and Kevin. Do not plan to fail. Take action. Big thanks to Kevin L. Jackson, host of Digital Transformers, and so much more. Y'all make sure you connect, follow, and check out his podcast. Be sure to connect with Greg White on LinkedIn in particular. Follow him for those commentaries every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and comment on those things. There's some fascinating conversations as thousands and thousands of folks read that perspective. But whatever you do, folks, whatever you do, on behalf of our entire team here at Supply Chain Now, it's all about deeds, not words. Take action and act now. No time to dither. On behalf of our entire team, Scott Luton challenging you. New word, I guess.
Don't dither.
Oh gosh, it's a Monday. But whatever you do, folks, whatever you do, hey, act. Do good. Give forward. Be the change that's needed. And we'll see you next time right back here at Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.